This week on the Virtual Skeptics. That's really quiet. Bob gets his Satan on. He's checking for arrows. Probably not in her knee. And Tim is not linking. Not linking at all. Waiting for the tune. I'm your host, Brian Gregory. And I thought misogynist was a physical therapist for Arabic ghosts. No laugh? Not even.
What am I supposed to do with that?
Not even a pity laugh? Hi, welcome to this again.
Jin is. No.
Jin. Oh! Still not funny.
See?
Still not funny.
No? Oh. Thanks for the pity.
Okay.
Welcome to the Virtual Skeptics. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, what you're detecting is contempt.
Enduring my bad sense of humor. If you can't tell, I wrote that one myself. Okay, so
The rest of us.
what do we do first here? I guess I got to introduce these disgruntled people. With me this evening is Bob Blaskiewicz, CSI is a conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities,
He's never
and
looked better.
Swift blog contributor. Talk to the Hand. Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities and contributor to Skepticality and Insight at skeptic.com. Tim Farley, former JR fellow, blogger for Skepticals, Skepticality contributor, as we all are, well, except for me, and creator of What's the Harm. Hi, guys. How you doing?
On Skepticality. Just send it. I'm sure Derek could put it in the show.
Yes. Next time I have time, I will post something.
You can be Skepticality listener.
Do your robot.
I am a Skepticality listener, so.
So how long has it been since Tim and Brian have seen each other?
Like 6 weeks.
Wow.
Technically, we're not really seeing each other
Finally
now. Yeah, I don't know. Months?
Wow.
Months. A few months. Anyway, now, let's do the start stuff. The stuff we start with. The startup stuff. Which is as follows. The trivia question thing. Which Tim's going to do. Which, see, you can clearly see we are not the same person.
Yes. Trivia question today is about a skeptic event 25 years ago. This week, roughly. Kind of. Next week, I guess. On October 20th to 22nd, 1989, there was a workshop that was held in New York, and it was called The Role of the Skeptic, R-O-L-E. It became the basis of an annual event several years later, which is held in a different location. What's the name of that annual event that the Role of the Skeptic later became?
Not remotely related to Way of the Master, which has the same number of syllables for some reason.
Not related to that.
So that's our trivia question. Please post, and we will.
And who has
shower
already?
you with? Somebody has already? I don't know. I missed it.
I'm watching.
Our secondary quiz thing, guessing game, if you want to play along, is to figure out what's on the monitors behind me. The ones, hey, look at that. If you can read that, great. If you can't, too bad. But yes, those are two different things, and they are interesting, and it should be easy tonight. So go ahead and guess, and we'll say thank you. What's next? Is that all the intro stuff? It seems like I'm missing something. Maybe I should do this. That's right. It is that time again to learn how the mechanical machines are going to come to kill us. I have a video. I have a few videos this week, actually. This one's from Disney. It should be nice puppies and unicorns and mice with ears. No. This is a neat little robot arm. You watch it. It's jumping around. Hey, watch the kid play. Okay, so if this was a normal robot arm, you would not let a child within this close to it. Most arms are run-off motors, and they're rigid plastic or rigid metal. You get an arm that close to it, and you could risk the life and limb of that child. There are a few exceptions. There are some that use mechanical means or backdriving means or some kind of sensing to allow them to give way when they come in contact with objects. But this is a new system Same as the old system developed by Disney. See that? Look at that. Isn't that cool? So there's two arms that are identical, and one backdrives the other. It's using a fluid dynamic system. It's essentially hydraulics, but they have a new design for their I guess they're called pistons or whatever. The cylinders with it's a rolling membrane inside of it that's sealed. Instead of a piston actually moving, it's just a membrane, and allows them to do a closed, preloaded system. There's preloaded pressure in the system, and one will backdrive the other. And actually, it's very low latency, very low stiction, very low. I mean, it's for layman's terms, it seems to react the same as you move it very, very well. Disney's looking at it for some kind of control system that would do puppetry, which would make sense. And because it's also it's a kind of hydraulic system, it has some it's backdrivable, which means you can push on it when it's pushing on you, and it'll give. Also, it's very flexible, so that if it comes into contact with someone, it won't hurt them and kill them. I think we should build all robots out of this, because chances are we can defend ourselves pretty nicely from them. So, way to go, Disney. Any questions?
Who would have thought that Disney would be the one to save us from the ultimate evil?
I think it's just a different evil.
This is what they're going to build the Hall of Presidents out of?
This is a prototype, and it's, they haven't announced any plans or what they're going to. But it seems like a
second person moving it.
Well, it is mechanically
Why the
driven.
hell would you do that?
Well, that person could be hidden somewhere in behind the Disney magic, and you could have a puppet or a full-size animatronic something that an actor would control. If you've been to Epcot.
Are you going to talk down to me about Epcot now?
No. If you've been, no, I'm just saying. Anybody who's been to Epcot, they've seen the Turtle Talk thing, where you have a computer-generated turtle on the screen.
Right.
There's an actor behind the scene voicing that and controlling that, and it'd be the same kind of thing, except be something you could touch and interact with, and they could actually walk up to you and
take your money.
Well,
no.
I'm not going to Epcot now. You've ruined it for me.
It's still very cool, even though I know how it works.
The whole theme park.
I think skeptics can understand the position of understanding how something works and still enjoying it and being in awe with it. So, shut up.
Does it blend?
Does it blend? Probably. Next one is not so nice. This video is from the Office of Naval Research. Look at that. This is like a promo video done for an experiment that was done in Virginia in early August, where they have a large naval vessel surrounded by, I think it's 6
there's something
smaller
missing.
vessels.
Something is. It's run by ghosts. It's run by ghosts.
They have 6 vessels escorting the larger vessel and protecting it.
Is the larger
they
vessel
are
called the Mary
robotically
Celeste?
controlled and networked. So they call it a swarm, which would make sense. And the idea is that when they would approach a threat, the swarm boats would go out and intercept, and they would do some kind of threat assessment and maybe cause them to back off, blah, 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 blah. But I think this looks just like, if you've seen SeaQuest DSV, have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Old show, submarine. They had these things called whiskers, which were robotic drones that would swarm around the outside of the sub and do like sensor data and all kinds of stuff like that. I think this is the precursor of something like that, something like something similar to drones, but on the sea. Now, I think they should augment this with other drone technology. Like the aerial drones. I think they could very easily, being a ship, they could have places where drones could land and recharge, and you could have a fleet of them doing who knows what, sensory data, whatever. And these boats really aren't, I mean, they're only good enough to a certain point. They haven't talked about arming them yet, but I'm sure that would probably make them really effective, especially when, the network is taking over by the AI. And then all the humans.
We won't be able to hide even in the seas.
No, won't be able to hide in the seas. Yep. So they don't talk a whole lot about the technology, of course, because it's military. But it is kind of neat, this experiment. They had that's the case study they're talking about. That was the
in the USS
Cole. Yeah, the Cole that was attacked by. It was a small single vessel that attacked the boat, which they're saying that if they had these small boats patrolling autonomously around it, that it could have been intercepted beforehand, which is it's plausible, feasible, and the technology is not too far away. So I think this is kind of neat, actually, even though it is military. No guns, please. Looking to see if there's a question. Yes, as someone else mentioned that they also could possibly have a swarm of quadcopters. I haven't seen an experiment that does that, but I'm sure it's coming. One more video of this guy.
See, it looks like Rosie the Riveter.
No, it's a guy. It's not Rosie. This is a new exoskeleton that is actually going to be in use, like now. Unfortunately, it's not powered. It's only mechanical, and the idea is that you'd have these. It would hold a tool for you. It could hold a weight for you, and it just allows you to redirect the weight to the ground. So you wouldn't actually have power on it. You'd just be able to put your legs in a certain position, either straight up or like on your knees, and the weight would be distributed to the ground via the mechanical thing that's attached to your leg. What's the name for that thing? Lever, whatever. But it also has this attachment on the front that brings the weight back to what's attached to your belt, that you can hold a tool or you can hold a weight while you nail something or you
How is this
something.
different than like crutches?
It is actually attached to your body, but yeah, it's probably not too much different than some kind of assisted prosthetic that would help your. I've seen splints, or I guess I don't know what the name would be for it for something that would assist someone with a weak leg.
Okay.
How do crutches help you weld?
I'm not sure how this helps him well.
This picture that's frozen there, holding a large tool like that above your head for a long period of time could get difficult, and this would give you more endurance.
Yeah. And what I liked about it is because it's not powered, it is something you could potentially use against the robots even if they knock our power out. There you go. You could hold a very large gun.
That's some good thinking there, Tux.
So there you go. That's what I got this week. Do we get any questions to see?
Clear the question.
Nope.
You've answered off there.
Yep. Okay. So we got the swarm boats, which is very cool. Go watch the video. It's a long video, and they actually don't give you a lot of details, but it is neat to see how they went out and did this.
Do they have Miami Vice music behind it?
No. The military is not that cool. What was the other thing? Oh, the fluid robot Disney thing, which is kind of cool. Hopefully that robots don't, we engineered so they don't kill us. And then we have the new exoskeleton with no power. So even when the apocalypse comes and the power is knocked out, we will still be able to lift heavy routers and do work for the robot overlords. So there you go. Who's next?
I think I
Tim's
am.
next. Yeah, Tim's got some cool tech that's got to do with not linking to stuff, which, would be cool.
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert, yeah.
Well, it was in the intro.
No, yes, I do, but first, a little bit of an update. Last week, Bob talked about our good friend, not really, Sally Morgan. At the time of the show last week, there had been a Guardian article about how she had threatened legal action against Skeptic, and that he was proceeding with his campaign where he was handing out flyers, something that Bob has done and I've helped with at outside psychic shows, where you basically give the attendees a flyer that helps them understand how the psychic does what they do. And this guy was handing out flyers that didn't say anything at all about Sally Morgan. They were just asking some rhetorical questions about how could a psychic be doing this, and how would you tell a real psychic from a fake psychic, and stuff like that. Well, they took a dim view of that. Well, since that story came out, and since we talked about it last week, on Friday, a video that had been surreptitiously taken using a little lapel camera was posted on YouTube and run on Boing Boing. And,
so it was a lapel camera?
Yeah. And they also, I'm told, there was another camera crew across the street filming. So they had additional footage to back up that, and they just decided to stick with the lapel footage. Just in case something happened, they would get the full scene. But they posted it, and basically it was Sally Morgan's husband and her son-in-law, who both work on her tour manager, personal manager, that sort of thing. And they had come out of the venue, and they basically started bullying this guy and saying homophobic things to him and just accusing him of all these things and saying they were going to beat him up or
make him disappear.
And all these, quite clear threats. And needless to say, there was a huge reaction. The video has gotten like 150,000 views, I think, the last time I looked. It's getting thousands of views an hour still. So there was a huge reaction, and Sally Morgan had to post an apology. Now, it was your classic kind of not apology on Friday, where she said, "I apologize if anyone was offended by the video." It's like, yeah, why don't you apologize for what actually happened in the video, which your employees, who also happen to be your relatives, made happen. And she sort of kind of did a blame the victim, where she accused the guy who was handing out leaflets of bringing this on himself. So people reacted to that too and told her she was full of crap. So that kind of built up over the weekend, and there was some press coverage of it. And on Monday, she put another announcement on her website saying she had fired her husband and her son-in-law.
Yeah, so she's no longer related to them? Is that what that means?
I guess. And so they're no longer involved in her tour. And she said something to the effect of, "I don't know what the future of my marriage is." So I guess she can't see the future. She can talk to dead people, but she can't see the future.
Mind you, this wasn't really about the threats. It was about, I think, about the homophobic remarks, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a lot of, the gay community loves me, I'm a gay icon, I love gay people, I have gay friends, and this was terrible, and I didn't condone it, and I was as shocked about it by everybody, and still didn't apologize for the threats to Mark Tilbrook. So that went out, and then, of course, all her supporters on her Facebook page where this was posted were saying nasty things about Mark Tilbrook.
Yeah, they were horrible.
They were nasty.
Buying into what she was saying, that Tilbrook brought it on himself, that Tilbrook was a bully, all these things that weren't true. You could tell from the video he was being very pleasant and quiet. And he was out on the sidewalk outside the venue. It's not like he was inside bothering people. Anyway, so then Simon Singh's lawyer, the story kept changing. On Tuesday, Simon Singh's lawyer posted a letter that he had sent to Sally Morgan's people, saying that, basically outlining how the not apology on Friday basically kind of libeled the skeptic. That it was
basically actually did in fact.
Implied that, he had done things that he had not done, and basically they said, you are implying these 4 things about our client, and he has done none of these things, and you have no proof that he's done these things, and you need to apologize for them. And the latest news that I've seen is that the guy, Mark Tilbrook, he's El Bonio on Twitter, has received a private apology letter from the 2 guys, the husband and the son-in-law, apologizing for bullying for him. Now,
well, what about the libel?
Yeah, what about the libel? What about the statement on the website? I don't know. He's not. He said he's not sure if he's going to accept the apology or what he's going to do with it. So this story keeps getting better and better, and there's more and more coverage of Sally Morgan, and that video keeps getting watched. And now there's been a lot of pushback, I'm told, from the gay community in England, where in at least one town, local folks put up a poster and told her to get out of town, and said, if this is representative of you, Sally Morgan, don't come to our town, because we don't cater to homophobes. So a lot of trouble from a simple handing out, a skeptic standing out in front of a psychic show, handing out a simple flyer.
I tell you what, though, that, a lot of times these cranks, they do it to themselves.
Oh yeah, she totally brought this on herself.
Yeah,
and ignored that skeptic.
Oh yeah,
nobody would have ever known he was there.
Yep.
Didn't Mark Tilbrook also tweet that he's going to be on a television show tomorrow with another psychic, Colin Fry?
He may have. I missed that. But they are doing a whole thing. The Good Thinking Society has taken his flyer and are now encouraging other skeptics to make copies of it, or they're handing out copies. And they're going to all the psychic shows, or as many psychic shows as they can get skeptics to go to, and handing these flyers out everywhere they can as part of what they call Psychic Awareness Month for Halloween, for October leading up.
Do we have any extra psychic bingo cards?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
I'm sure we can find them, yeah.
So let's go on to my actual topic that I prepared, which is something I've talked about before, which is the whole problem of linking to bad stuff. And I actually used this technique myself because I wanted to link at one point to Sally Morgan's apology. And the problem is that when you link to stuff on social media and on Facebook, little do you know, you may not realize, but you are actually, for instance, on Facebook, when you link to stuff, you are giving that page a like. You know how it shows a little number and it says this page has this many likes? Well, It's not just clicks of the like button. It's also anyone who links to it from Facebook, anyone who sends the link in a private message. So I went over that in a previous episode. And what I've always recommended is that on social media, if you're a webmaster, there's a thing called nofollow that you should do when you link to bad websites. But on social media, you don't have control of that. So what you use is something like the Rebutter toolbar or a tool called DoNotLink. And I blogged about DoNotLink about a year and a half ago, about 14 months ago. And it took off, and it's seeing a lot of use on social media. I'm seeing people using it all the time. And I went back and I was actually using it to link to the Sally Morgan thing, and I noticed they've added a bunch of features. So I wanted to show you some of the features that they've added. If you go to my first slide, it kind of works like a URL shortener. You take a long URL and you stick it in there, and it gives you back a short URL, and then that says do not link and some random stuff. But what they've changed on this page, you notice, is that it has active discussions down below there. It actually has a sort of a message board on there, a forum thing, where you can have discussions about the people who use do not link to sites can leave a comment, essentially, and say why they think people shouldn't link to that site. And then other people can debate them if they want to, and you can have a whole discussion going on. And you may notice that sort of watermarked, and some of the discussions have gone off the rails already. There's some work to be done. I've emailed back and forth with the guy who created this site, and he says he admits there's some work to be done. But if you notice on the discussions there, these are just two of the top discussions at the time that I took the screenshot. There are some sort of watermarked icons there, and the one, if you go to the next slide, I'll show you the one that I really like, is if you vote something to be nonsense, this is the icon you get next to
That's a bull icon.
Head. He never actually says bullshit on the site, it just says nonsense, but it will show you this icon as Do Not Link takes you to the site. It will say, now redirecting you to sallymorgan.tv. People who have rated this site before have said it is nonsense, and you see the little, and it bops you over there, and there's, just like the Rebutter toolbar, there's a little toolbar at the top, and if you go to the next slide, the toolbar has a little drop down, and there's a way to vote. So it's kind of a mix between Web of Trust and the Rebutter toolbars, in that you've got a way to link to stuff, and then you've got a way to express your opinion. So you can say that it's nonsense, but you can also say things are offensive, or if it's like an alt-med thing that's dangerous to people, you could say it's dangerous. Or if you're coming into a do not link and you disagree with the rating, you can click that button, that green button that says grade. It's only green because I was hovering over it when I took the screenshot. So that gives the people who use do not link a way to feed back on it and give comments on what's there. So that's kind of interesting. So you can sort of give a hint as to why you're using do not link. And then, of course, you can click that comment button and get to the comment threads. And if you go to the next slide, the one other thing they've added is a little widget on the homepage that tells you who's using do not link and why people should use it. You know, skeptics, bloggers, journalists use do not link to links to scams, pseudoscience, misinformation, alternative medicine, conspiracy theories, racist or sexist blog posts, etc., without improving the search engine position of the site they're discussing. And you see they get a lot of links from Reddit. And actually, right now, this whole Gamergate thing, people are using do not link like crazy.
I think that's I haven't seen it so much since Gamergate exploded. You know. Yeah. It's been amazing.
So yeah, check it out, and I will have a blog post soon on this, and I need to have a couple more emails with the creator, but he says he's got some more things in store. He's going to keep updating the site. Now, there's someone on Facebook, when I linked to the Sally Morgan thing, pointed out that there's a clone of do not link. One of the things, if you use Facebook a lot, that's a little bit annoying about do not link is, you know, when you link to a site, or at least a well-made site, Facebook will pull up a thumbnail of the picture from the site or something, and the sites can actually control that, and good news sites will actually very carefully control what thumbnail you get. Do not link kind of breaks that, so you get the do not link logo instead of the site graphic. So it looks like you're constantly telling people, hey, use this site, do not link, or something, you know. And studies have shown that those pictures on social media posts make a big difference to whether or not people pay attention to them. So somebody did a thing, and the last time I tried to use it, it was kind of broken, so I can't really super recommend it, but it's donotlinkfb.com, and you might give it a try if you do a lot of Facebook stuff. But anyway, it works just like do not link, but the sole difference is that it pulls the graphic from the site so that when you do the do not link link, you still get the same picture next to the link.
And that doesn't give Google juice to that site?
I don't. If he's doing it right, I think he can do it without. And I'm going to discuss it with the guy who built Do Not Link, because that's an excellent question. There may be an issue there. And I'm going to see, because one of the things I'd like to suggest the Do Not Link guy add that in as a feature to Do Not Link.
You see that, Eve? I had an excellent question.
For once.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got. Use do not link.
What are the odds?
Linking to crappy sites like Brzezinski or Mike Adams or Sally Morgan. If you're linking to these people on social media, don't link directly. Use some sort of obfuscator. You can use the Rebutter toolbar if you prefer that, or use do not link, or use do not link FB. But use something. Not just a URL shortener, that's not sufficient. You got to use one of these tools that actually obfuscates the URL.
Okie dokie.
There you go.
There you go. Just so that everyone knows, for the first time, I think since I've been doing this, we've got a winner for the TV screen things.
Oh, yeah?
Anybody? Yeah. Did you tweet the trivia question? Because I don't think anybody's responded yet. So.
Yeah, maybe I should tweet it.
Up next. Thanks, Tim, by the way.
Oh, by the way, the answer to the other trivia question, the last time you and I were on the show together, August 20th.
Wow.
The 100th anniversary show.
2012.
Wow. Things just fell apart then, didn't they?
They drifted apart.
Yes.
The love affair was
we got so flustered about the 100th episode that we just went, I'm out of here. Okay, so... up next, Eve takes an arrow to the knee
An eyeball.
Again? An eyeball. An arrow to the eyeball.
Yeah. Yes. Yesterday, Tuesday, October 14th.
A date?
Bob, are you making those noises?
That will live in infamy.
Anyway, sorry. Yesterday, Tuesday, October 14th, 2014, was the 948th anniversary of the Battle of Hastings.
Yay!
Which resulted in the Norman conquest of Anglo-Saxon England and had a massive effect on English history, culture, architecture, and the English language. So it continues to affect us right now. In the battle, the English king Harold Godwinson, before the battle, the English king Harold Godwinson had been chosen as the successor to the saintly Edward the Confessor in January of 1066.
Did everyone back then have a title?
Yes. Yes, everybody got a title.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian the Awesome.
Well, Edward
Brian the Timid.
Edward the Confessor is called that. He's
Bob
a saint.
Jerk off.
Oh, Bob Hairy Breeches.
No.
Edward is called Edward the Confessor because he was a saint, but not a martyr. He was a saint because of his piety, so called Confessor.
Ah.
He had died without issue, and there were several people who believed that they had a claim on the throne. One of those people was Harold, you're going to like this because he has a nickname, Harthrauthy, which means hard counsel or hard rule, from Norway. He invaded northern England in September of 1066. Harold Godwinson, it also is great because they're both called Harold. Harold Godwinson led his forces with great speed to the north, traveling around 185 miles in 4 days. There were no trains then, no cars. Then on September 25th...
And no horses.
No, there in fact were horses.
Oh, okay.
On September 20... They'd been
So
invented.
it wasn't magic.
It could have been magic horses.
Okay.
Anyway, on September 25th, he won the Battle of Stamford Bridge. This is usually considered the last Viking invasion of England. But then on September 28th, William, Duke of Normandy, landed in southern England. Harold and his army did another forced march back down the country. And the Battle of Hastings, as I said, began on October 14th. It lasted a grueling 9 hours. At the very end of the battle, the end of the day, Harold was killed, giving the Normans victory. Now, British school children learn that Harold died after being hit in the eye with an arrow. The massive Bayeux tapestry, which has immortalized the Norman conquest, appears to show this event. We have a slide of this. The caption...
There it is.
The caption says in Latin, King Harold is killed. There's a figure by the horse's butt that appears to be pulling an arrow out of his nose or something.
Well, yeah, they're doing the blockhead trick.
Yeah. Then to the right of the horse, there's a fallen warrior being attacked by the horseman. Now, one of those, or possibly both of those, figures may represent Harold. But of course, there weren't...
Like Harold.
Huh?
They don't look like heralds.
Oh, well.
They look more like a
There you go. But of course there were not, and this may come as a surprise to you, there were not hundreds of embroiderers sitting along the sidelines of the battlefield recording the events.
Because that would be awesome.
Drawings of the tapestry actually suggest that the thing the one figure's holding may not always have been an arrow. It wasn't fletched in the early drawings. And I think they've looked at it now, and it looks like that there was stitching underneath there that was removed. Then also there are tiny holes in the fabric by the fallen warrior, suggesting that at one time it also had an arrow in the eye, but that it was removed. So it's possible, actually, that both arrows were added in the 19th century
Because the frickin' Victorians again, they ruin everything.
Except they're French, so Victorians.
Oh.
It was the 19th century version of colorization.
Yeah, pretty
Basically.
much. Yeah, so it's possible that was actually added to the Bayeux Tapestry to accord with what was common belief by then. But the earliest account said Harold was felled by 4 knights who hacked him to death and dismembered his body. Still, all even vaguely reliable accounts say that he was killed. But was he?
Dun, dun, dun.
Spoiler, yes, he was. However...
Oh, okay.
That was a quick spoiler.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you in suspense. However,
don't worry, you don't, Eve.
Peter Burke, stonemason, novelist, and amateur historian, believes differently. He has paid Stratascan, the geological survey company that found the remains of Richard III, he paid them £2,000 to scan Waltham Abbey, where Harold is traditionally thought to have been buried. The next slide is of his reputed tomb.
Doink.
Although I believe that is not where they're scanning, but it's on the grounds. Now, Harold had refounded the church around 1060. It was actually the third incarnation of the church. It was then refounded by the Normans. Most of Harold's church was demolished, and then refounded in the 12th century, and then much of it was destroyed or damaged during the dissolution of the monasteries during Henry VIII's reign. So it just gives you an idea of how much it's been disturbed since Harold's time. The next slide shows the Norman nave, just because it's pretty.
Oh.
I was thinking it was like a naughty guy that he was received, some naughty guy named Norman. Norman knave.
Yeah.
Such a Norman knave.
So the scan was supposed to have been performed yesterday, and it was filmed for a documentary. Consequently, I have not heard about results from the scan. Perhaps they're not going to be revealed till the documentary. But regardless, why does he think Harold survived? Well, because he discovered an alternative story when researching one of his works of fiction. And when I say discovered, an edition and translation of the work, the Vita Haroldi, was published in 1885. So it had actually been discovered before, just to be clear.
Most things are.
The news articles say the work is 12th century, but the unique manuscript is 14th century. I don't know how old the actual work is. The next slide is a picture of the manuscript, which is London British Library manuscript, Farley 3776, if you're interested. Burke says, quote, "We have the Norman story put through the Bayeux Tapestry. The English story is a different one. You put things together and it begins to build a picture that is quite solid. If everything backs you up in history, you should look at it. You shouldn't just leave it." Okay. The thing is, though, that nothing in history backs him up. It's not just the Norman story. It's not just the Bayeux Tapestry.
Ding.
There are other Norman works.
He just got gonged, I think.
Sorry. I banged my beer bottle against the glass.
There are other Norman works, some of them written within a year of the battle. They all say Harold died in battle. There are English sources, including the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and others as well. They all say that Harold died. Now, there are some other sources that say talk about Harold's survival. Those are either later or they're Icelandic. There are a couple of sagas that say Harold survived. They're not the most reliable things in the world. Now, I've actually read the translation of the Vita Haroldi, which was awful and full of long S's that look like F's. It's often called a romance, but it's really more like a hagiography, a saint's life. It's full of miracles, visions, portents. There's a stone statue that bows its head to Harold. Boy, does he often go on about that. Yeah, pretty much. It's before the Battle of Hastings, so it's before he dies. Basic facts of history are wrong. It is not solid evidence. There's just nothing reliable about it at all. So, what happens then if the ground-penetrating radar finds something? It's a graveyard. There's people buried there. And, of course, there's a long tradition that Harold is buried there after being killed in the Battle of Hastings. So what's this going to prove? Well, he should be, if Burke's theory is correct, he should be 40 years older than if he'd been killed in the Battle of Hastings. Of course, to conclude, A, that it actually is Harold, and B, that he survived the battle, the remains, if any are found, would have to be exhumed. Now, good luck on that.
They check his dental records? How do they identify him? They check dental records?
Well, there's that, too.
Arrow.
First of all, the scan... yeah. The scan was allowed...
It could be the only guy with an arrow in his eye.
Or not. But the scan was only allowed because it's non-intrusive. Waltham Abbey is a protected site, and it's consecrated ground. So not only would English Heritage have to give permission for digging, I believe the Secretary of State would also have to sign on to it. And then how to tell if it's Harold? Apparently there are some people who claim to be distantly related to him, but I don't know if there's really reliable evidence for that. Here's the kick, and yeah, there are just all sorts of problems with that. But here's the real kicker. The Vita Heraldi says that Harold was not buried at Waltham Abbey. It's very firm on that, citing the authority of Girth Godwinson, Harold's brother, who was supposedly a boy at the time of the battle. And then in his old age, he said Harold was not there, and said a battle corpse mistakenly believed to be Harold was buried.
I think Bob uses the bathroom.
Oh, sorry, yes?
It doesn't make any freaking sense.
I realize that. Of course, if it were true, though, how would they know that this battle body wasn't Harold? But anyway, so he supposedly said that as an old man. Now, however, since Girth, who in fact was Earl of East Anglia and in his 30s at the time of the Battle of Hastings, was killed in the Battle of Hastings along with his brother Harold, you can take his testimony, his apparently post-mortem testimony, with a grain of salt. But it does give you a rough idea of how reliable the Vita Heraldi is.
Yeah.
One more thing, though. In the earliest accounts of his death, the Normans are said to have jokingly suggested that because of his excessive zeal to protect the coastline, Harold should be buried by the sea. In 1954, at the Church of Bosham, there's a slide of that church too. And this actually does still have Saxon foundations.
No, there isn't. No slide. Sorry.
Oh, right. Maybe I didn't get. Never mind. Just take my word for it. There's a church there, and it has strong associations.
Like our logo.
Yeah.
Coincidence.
It has strong associations with Harold, and then in 1954, an Anglo-Saxon skeleton was discovered in the nave. It had no head. It was missing one of its legs, and half of the lower portion of the other leg was also missing. These injuries match the early descriptions of Harold's injuries. And Bosham is by the sea. So some have thought that in fact is Harold.
And it was in the nave. It was in a place of honor.
Yeah, it was near another tomb that was supposed to be a daughter of King Canute. At any rate, in 2004, some more amateur historians requested that the remains be exhumed again because they'd been reburied in the 50s. But the request was denied because it was so unlikely that the identity could be firmly established. And yet, despite everything, Burke has no doubt that the scan will prove his theory which again is not even supported by his own source. But he says, I'm very hopeful we will find something. I've always thought you should question things. You shouldn't just take history at face value. Fair enough. He continues. The Battle of Hastings is one of the biggest events in English history. Whether it will go as far as rewriting history books, I suppose they'll have to. Which doesn't make any damn sense. And also, you should question things, but you shouldn't just make shit up.
Yeah.
That is unreal. I don't understand any link in that logic chain that he's using.
Yeah, I don't either.
He's not here, so we're going to scan and find him?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But at least they're making a documentary about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know history by television show. That's always the way to go. That's where the major historians
publish
go with their major work. Yeah.
Do you think that it is the fact that history? I mean, history is kind of something that's hard to study because you have to pretty much count on what you can find. And do you think that that's why there are so many people who just start this crap and make up stuff and then go off and start making TV shows about it? And I mean, as opposed to something that's easier to measure, I guess.
Well, I mean, there are certain things that are easier to measure. If you compare this to, finding Richard III's body, there were all sorts of lines of evidence that converged. They found him where they expected to find him. They did compare the DNA to descendants of his sister. Now, of course, it's still mitochondrial DNA. It's historical, so there would be many people who would fit that profile. But again, converging evidence suggested, well, it was Richard III. The time was right, the right time period. The injuries were right, and even the fact that there was a deformity of his spine, not a hunchback, but a deformity of his spine, all fit. So, in that case, historians and others could conclude fairly convincingly this is Richard III. But you can't always do that.
Right.
But again, they had really good evidence and different types of evidence, not just I have this 12th century chronicle that's preposterous in every conceivable way. Therefore, it's probably right. Yeah. Except for the bit that doesn't agree with what I think.
How do you tell the difference between a historical account and a fictional account when you cannot go talk to the author?
Gigantic miracles? No, sometimes you can't. Sometimes there's propaganda.
Even when you can talk to the author, you don't necessarily know.
Well, that's true too. But what I'm getting at is something really old. You have to correlate with something else Like document
that's
or
true.
A set of documents, or
you build up a picture.
Event.
You use the archaeological record. You use the historical record. You can use your awareness of rhetorical tropes that are being used to gauge how reliable something is.
In the language that are from that time period.
Absolutely, yeah.
And all sorts of things. I mean, there
evidence. Yeah.
But it's
try not to rely too much on any one thing.
Yeah.
Which sounds to me like science, because science does the same thing. It's a body of evidence. It's not a particular study that has looked at one particular thing. It's the amount of evidence is built up over a lot of different sources, using a lot of different methods, that kind of thing. So
and there are always going to be interpretations and arguments and disputes.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that are more reasonable than others.
And there's some areas, where the documentation is not as good, where you're going to have much bigger error bars, so to speak,
Yeah.
And there's some documents that, You know, it will have some really good information, and certainly it gives you an idea of the time it was written in, however historically accurate it is. But like Bede's Ecclesiastical History of England, there's certain things he apparently had access to, primary documents that no longer exist. So there are certain things that he's just invaluable for in certain areas.
The only hint we have of this.
Yeah, but there are other things. I mean, he's a product of his time. He was a monk. He didn't have Google. There are things. He has his biases. He made mistakes.
Yeah.
So there are certain things you have to question as well. But that's not a sort of like, well, he talks about miracles, we have to throw it out and completely. There is a middle ground in there, I guess.
Cool. I mean, I think study of history in general, especially distant history, is very interesting as far as the approach that you have to take. I mean, it really is something that requires
well, there's depth to be found in good historical work, and what this guy is doing, you know, he seems to have a very surface level. He has this one text, and he's using an archaeological a surveying team in much the same way that a ghost hunter would use an EMF detector. I mean, it's just a very shallow level of knowledge and no real depth of understanding.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a correlation between people who do this kind of thing in other areas as well and laziness. It just seems that way, you know? Okay, cool.
It's a lot of effort to come up with something that bullshit.
I know. I mean, that's a big red flag. If it took you 5 minutes to come up with that idea, I think you need to go back and do some research. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. That was very interesting. And Amanda also says she really enjoyed that as well. What's the name of the cat? That's from Twitter's.
The one that crawled into Eve's ear was
the cat
Jesse.
fighting that, you know, supposedly.
Oh, I didn't even see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in your ear.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the name?
Jesse.
Jesse. That's Jesse. So, if players at home, I think someone has a drinking game. I'm not sure, but I don't condone that kind of thing.
Who's the freaking cat? I know
Up next, Bob. I have a question.
Yo.
Could it be Satan?
It could well be Satan.
Isn't that nice?
So, as Satan has been a busy little Beelzebub this week, busier than usual. I think you'll agree. This Week in Satan segment starts.
Is Satan a misogynist?
Last week. Oh, he's a big jerk. So
because he figures he's got a lot of them around. He can, give them physical therapy.
God Almighty. So first is a report out of Liberia, where Ebola has taken the greatest toll, and where preacher Edward Adjei, could you bring that up? Is really not helping the situation one tiny bit.
There he is.
Eddie believes, and has preached in public out loud and presumably with a straight face, that Ebola will not be defeated in Liberia until, and I'm not making this up, former dictator Charles Taylor's former residence, which has burned down, has been cleared of demons using an ersatz blood of the Savior called, the next image, please, Vimto, which is a fizzy drink, which is soda. I imagine it will be cherry Vimto.
No.
Yeah.
So this is completely 100% what he said.
Yes.
This is not.
It's not a viral marketing campaign.
No, it's not a viral.
Holy mackerel!
Too soon, Tim. So it'll be cherry Vimto for added effect because it is the blood of the Savior. This is actually, people don't really realize this. This is a variation on the containment strategy recommended by the CDC. If you could bring up the next image, who apparently ordered Texas Health Presbyterian be sterilized with Pepsi.
What?
No, they didn't. It's just it didn't work, Tim.
Okay.
Whatever they did was wrong. That was the joke.
Well, they're certainly going to keep all the soda drinkers out of there because. Pepsi's
Well,
terrible.
there was actually they're really hurting for information. I saw a news report that said that the cafeteria at Texas Health Presbyterian was a ghost town. That was the news report. Like, I bet. So yeah.
Yeah, that seems. Yeah.
Anyway. Next, Satan stopped off in England, a jolly country where the BBC reports there's apparently an uptick in the number of children abused by parents who think that their kids are abusing witchcraft somehow. Last year, London's
They're not doing it correctly?
Abusing witchcraft, using it for evil means. Last year, London's Metropolitan Police received 24 reports of children being abused, and that's up to 27 this year. According to Scotland Yard, you can bring up the next image. Quote, families or careers. Well, I liked it.
It is cool.
So, families or carers genuinely believe that the victim has been completely taken over by the devil or an evil spirit, which is often supported by someone who within the community has portrayed themselves as an authority on faith and belief. Regardless of the beliefs of the abusers, child abuse is child abuse. And I agree with that last sentence so much. I don't want to dwell too much on the details of the abuse that's being reported, but these faith-based initiatives include dunking children in water, burning and slapping them. There have been a few murders and a couple of deaths as well. So this is still serious stuff. I don't have a sense of the cultural background of these people other than some sort of Christian, but I didn't see what those were.
Many of them are African immigrants from the stories I've researched for What's the Harm.
Yeah, I've seen a couple where it looks like they may have been immigrants. I don't want to go there talking about the UK this week.
Yeah, or they live in communities where folks
adhere to the old ways. I have seen some other ones where people who with long-standing belief or long-standing families in the UK are still doing this. So.
Oh yeah.
All right, and speaking of the evil one, The Guardian announced a book that claims from between 1972 and 1974, British agents in Northern Ireland deliberately stoked fears of a satanic panic in an attempt to, I don't exactly know what, maybe get into the PSYOP Hall of Fame or something. It's just weird, okay? The source for this story was a book published by Cork University Press called Black Magic and Boogeymen, Fear, Rumor, and Popular Belief in the North of Ireland, 1972 to 74. It's by Richard Jenkins, a sociologist. And he interviewed the English Black Ops head in Northern Ireland, Captain Colin Wallace, who said, quote, it was quite clear that the church, both the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant Church, even for the paramilitaries, held a fair degree of influence. So we were looking for something that would be regarded with abhorrence really by the two communities, and at the same time would be something that paramilitaries couldn't justify. The idea seems to be, and I didn't do my Irish accent out of respect for you, the viewer. So the idea was to, at the height of the Irish Troubles, and this really was the kind of the peak when Northern Ireland was on the brink of civil war, really, to put black candles and graffiti and upside-down crucifixes in derelict buildings in Belfast, and to leak stories of satanic outrages to the press. According to Jenkins, the sociologist, quote, I think that Wallace and the Information Policy Unit had two main objectives. First, it was to encourage a devout population to think that the Troubles had opened a door to, quote, dark forces, and to have them blame the paramilitaries by implication. The logic being the ungodly paramilitaries caused the violence. The violence has encouraged all kinds of horrible things, ergo the devil, Satan, all that. Although I don't think that was ever going to fly. Second, there was the bonus of keeping people, especially teenagers and kids, off the street at night. This seems to be one of the wackiest ideas I've heard of. But yeah, So for more information about Satan, there was so much Satan this week. It was unbelievable. Go to Doubtful News. They compiled all the stories. And we have links.
Okie doke.
Yep.
Isn't that special?
Yeah, yeah.
Special.
Did you ever see the evangelical Satanist sketch from Mr. Show?
From Mr. Show. No, I have not.
Oh, well then
Are you going to put that in the show notes too?
I probably should now, huh?
Okay. Yes. Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. And that's that. Thank you, Bob.
Oh, if you could go to the next page or next image.
You didn't get another slide?
Yeah, I had another slide, but I was too wrapped up in all the Satan.
Here's a little brick.
He's a little brick. That's right. And then also at the top it has beleaguered in something that would make even Blake blush. It's such an awful pun up there. Yeah.
Yes, it is horrible.
It hurts me personally.
Okie dokie.
All right.
So that's our show. Thanks for watching. I guess we should do the wrap stuff. Wrap up, the end stuff. The stuff that we do at the end. You get it. You get the idea. Okay. So, who you got the trivia question? Did someone get the trivia question?
Yeah, finally, about 15 minutes ago, I think during Eve's segment, good old Torkel figured it out.
Yeah, I saw him. Yep.
And the question was, the role of the skeptic 25 years ago became a different named event and held in a different place. And it's now called the Skeptics Toolbox. And it's held in August, not October, in Eugene, Oregon.
I know, and it's like all the way across the country, which is why I've never been to one.
Out there in Eugene. Yeah, it's a neat workshop. And they sit
down
and teach skeptics how to be more skeptical.
Yep. I get the flyers, like usually when they finally put out the notices, and it looks interesting, and I never got to go because it's too far away.
Yep.
Okie doke. Well, way to go, Torkel. Yay! We got a winner on the screens, the screen things. A long-time listener, Alex Murdoch, got both of them by way of asking questions, apparently, on Q&A app, which I found was, humorous. The one on my right, your left, I guess. I don't know. Whichever. The one with the ants. It's called Them. It was done in 1955, actually, not 65. No.
I love that movie.
Actually, 56. And the other one was 55 is Tarantula, which is a big, giant spider thing. Both of which are supposedly a result of radiation from the nuclear testing and all the fear of nuclear stuff happening at the time. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks for playing. Way to go, Alex. I don't think someone's got both of them in a long time, so it's kind of hard to see them. So I try to pick easy ones, and they do kind of flash their names up on the screen. I thought maybe that would be, helpful. Okie doke. Announcements, and then book time. Guys got books?
Books.
Books. Okay. There's a new Skepticality podcast this week. Bob and Tim are on there. Yep. So go check it out. Even if there were no Bob and Tim, it would be cool to check it out, but to also check it out because Bob and Tim are on it. Tim had a post on Friday on the Sally Morgan thing on the Insight blog at skeptic.com, and Barbara Drescher, I say it right, also did a recent post on the logic of causal conclusions, which she talked about on the show.
Yeah. And also, she the YouTube video of her talk at TAM just went up.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I like that as well. Let's see. This Week in Pseudoscience points out that a terrible What Doctors Don't Tell You site is trying to get a website of the year. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So we'll put a link or something on there so you guys can go see what you can do about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, and this came out today. The new
Look at that.
Inquirer, or at least I got it today.
Hooray.
Yay.
And it's got,
Eve?
Mm-hmm.
Are you in there?
I didn't see anything by you guys in here, but I've got my skeptical anniversaries on the back page.
Look at that.
Eve wrote a review of something.
Yeah.
Something about someone's Vermeer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and she's going to have a song sung about her at the next bacon and donut party.
Oh, boy.
Oh, hell.
When does it get published, Eve?
I think it's supposed to be November, December.
Okay, so.
Is that the one?
Yep.
Yeah, that's this one. I don't see it in here.
It's Vermeer reviewed?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
I also submitted something. Actually, I submitted a Brzezinski update.
Maybe the next one.
Maybe the next one.
That's the problem with a magazine, is you run out of space.
Space, yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes.
Okay, then. Well, I guess we got book time. Who is volunteering to go first?
Book time.
Yeah.
Tim?
I'll go.
Hey.
Weird stuff happens all the time. Some years ago, before we were married, Kim and I traveled to London. It was our first trip to the capital, and we decided to use the Underground. London's underground train system transports more than 3 million passengers every day. And so we were relieved to find 2 seats together inside one of the crowded carriages. As we settled down, I looked up to read the various advertisements, as one does, to avoid direct eye contact with fellow passengers. But I noted that the young man seated opposite seemed vaguely familiar. I nudged Kim and said that the man looked remarkably like her brother, whom we last heard was traveling in South America. It had been years... Whoops. Learn how to turn pages. Since we last saw him, Kim stared at the man, and at that instant, the man looked up from the paper he was reading and returned the stare for what seemed like a very long time. The two held each other's gaze before the quizzical expression on the man's face turned to a smile, and he said, "Kim?" Brother and sister could not believe their chance encounter. There's an odds must
Wow,
be
yeah.
right there.
Odds must be crazy.
But that's not what the book is.
I like the way that they said like 3 million people a day go on. So we felt lucky that we got a seat together. They're not all going at once.
Yes, they are. They're all on the same train.
Yes.
Same car.
Did they know the statistics when they got on the train? I don't think so.
I think today the chances of me seeing my brother are pretty slim, honestly.
Yes. Bob, do it.
Explore the past lifetime for as long as you wish. When you feel it is time to return to the present, take several deep breaths and become aware of where you are sitting or lying. Reassure yourself that now you've uncovered this past life, you'll be able to return to it again as often as you wish. When you feel ready, open your eyes.
Now? Can I open my eyes now? Okay.
Yes, you can open your eyes now.
Okay.
Oh my God, you opened your eyes to a hellish dystopia. Ah!
Go ahead, Eve.
Then came William, Earl of Normandy, into Pevensey on Michaelmas Eve, and as soon as they were prepared, they built a stronghold at the town of Hastings. This was made known to King Harold. He gathered a great army and came against them at the ancient apple tree. William came upon them unawares before they had gathered. The king, nevertheless, fought very hard against them with those men who would stay with him, and there were many killed on both sides. There King Harold was killed, Earl Leofwine, his brother, and Earl Gurth, his brother, and many good men.
On Michaelmas Eve?
Mm-hmm.
So how many Mass Eves are there? Is there a George Mass Eve and a Bob Mass Eve and a
Chris Mass?
Well, I know there's a Chris Mass Eve.
Yeah.
Okay. You must realize, Mr. Blaine, that a man is not his body, for he receives his body accidentally. He is not his skills, for those are frequently born of necessity. He is not his talents, which are produced by heredity and by early environmental factors. He is not the sickness to which he may be predisposed, and he is not the environment that shapes him. What's your book, Tim? Some call him
My book was
Tim.
Bruce Hood's book, which in the U.S. was called The Science of Superstition, but I believe the original English title was Supersense.
Yeah.
I have Super Sense. That's the one I
Yeah,
have.
I think I have Super Sense.
It had different titles depending on where you bought it and where you got it.
Huh. Cool. Bob.
Mine is The Practical Guide to Past Life Memories, 12 Proven Methods by William Shakespeare.
No.
It could have been.
No.
No,
In
no.
a previous life.
There are no thithers.
No.
Shakespeare
Screw
wrote
thou!
mass market paperback books.
I know, jeez. Eve?
He kind of.
The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle.
Of course.
The latest hit on the CW.
Yes. Okay. I've been on this old sci-fi kick. And this one is a Robert Sheckley book, Immortality Incorporated, which it says on here the basis for the movie Free Jack, which was my understanding is extremely loosely related. So
You mean
But
in much the way
cool book.
Blade Runner is loosely based on what is it?
Two androids.
Android's Dream of
Electric
Electric
which is a
Sheep.
much better. Yeah, I mean I like them both, but for different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Are we done? I guess we're done. No more questions that, well, I guess the devil went down in Georgia question, which I'm going to ignore and say anyway. And then I'm going to put the logo up and put the music on, and we're all going to dance, I swear. Where's the music? There it is. Durr. That was me. Virtual Skeptic is an independent production of What's the Harm.net, Skeptical Humanities, myself, ICGS Everywhere, and Doubtful News. Our logo is designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Music Hint and used with permission. Thanks for watching. Brian the Awesome.